kind of week to week, all right? Because it depends what I see on Facebook. Because this new series is called The Gospel According to Facebook. Is anybody here?
Yeah!
All right. It's all right. If you're new here, it's all right to just talk back because that's what keeps me going. If you're ready for me to shut up, then just sit back and don't say anything. I'll be done. All right? All right. Yeah, I'm starting a new series called The Gospel According to Facebook. And the reason I'm doing this series is because I keep seeing all of this stuff that's posted on Facebook, and it's verses and scriptures and quotes and things. And the message that's going out on Facebook is drastically different than the message Jesus taught. It's a very heavy, condemning, holier than thou message. It really is frightening that this is what people are seeing from the Christian church today. And when people see this, they associate this with the church, and then all of a sudden, man, the church is like a mean, hateful institution that's serving an angry God who just wants to destroy and kill us for messing up, right? And that's not really the gospel. So I'm going to do this series, and I'm not going to use your Facebook post. All right? So because I could. No, I'm just kidding. What I hope that we do in this series is, first of all, we start to realize what the gospel of Jesus really looks like. And second of all, I hope that we start to look at what we're portraying the gospel of Jesus to look like to our friends and neighbors and people who don't even know us but read all of the stuff that's posted on Facebook. So today I want to start with a post, and this is a quote, and I'll use a lot of quotes on this because if you write it in a book, you deserve to have it read aloud, right? So that's just the way it goes. I won't read your Facebook quotes and the what do you call those things? Comments. I won't read those because that's where the cray-crays come out. Why is it all the crazy people posting the comments, right? All right. Yeah, it's always them. This is a post that was on Facebook I got a couple of weeks ago. It said, I think about Jesus' words in Matthew 18 and wonder why his initial instructions concerning the church wasn't about creating an environment where people feel warm and welcome, but instead about creating a community where sin is confronted simply, openly, and severely. That was a quote by David Platt. Anybody know who David Platt is?
Yep.
Huh? Yeah. Radical. Anyway, David Platt says, I think about Jesus' words in Matthew 18. All right? So he's thinking about Jesus' words in Matthew 18. I'll break it down for you. And wonder why his initial instructions concerning the church was about creating an environment where people feel warm and welcome. Well, God forbid we have that in church. It's unbelievable. But instead, Jesus' words, David Platt's saying that Jesus' words in Matthew 18 say that his instructions to the church, and Jesus' very first instructions to the church, are about creating a community where sin is confronted simply, openly, and severely. Wow. I got some questions about that. Like, okay, first of all, did Jesus talk about the church? Because that's a weird thing, because Jesus was a Jewish rabbi, right? And at last look, Jesus didn't establish the church until his resurrection. So he was making instructions to something that didn't exist? Possibly? Okay. We know, and Celia said, well, it wasn't about the temple. Okay, we know it wasn't about the temple. Right? Because Jesus' instructions here definitely don't apply to the order of the way things work in the temple. So he says that. Then he says he says Jesus wasn't about creating an environment where people were warm and welcome. I don't know, man. Jesus, I know, he seemed to be into stuff like that. Jesus instead created a community where sin, okay, this is where I start to get a little fever pitch. Because it's like, so Jesus created the church because of sin? That doesn't make sense. So the primary function of the church is sin, is addressing sin. Where sin is confronted, so we're confronting sin, simply, openly, and severely. Now the comments on this thing, people were like, oh yeah, preach it, brother, great, awesome. And I was like, obviously we're talking about somebody else's sin. Right? What sin are we going to confront, first of all? Right? And what sin are we going to confront openly? What qualifies as sin that we're going to talk about openly? Right? We want to talk about some sin? No. Okay. I didn't think so. It needs to be dealt with severely. Well, all right. All you sinners stay. And everybody else can go. All right. All right. So we got issues here, right? Here's what I want us to look at. This is the message that's going out to Facebook. Oh, Facebook, this is the gospel of Jesus. And Jesus' instructions to the church are to deal with sin openly and harshly. And that makes me want to get up in the morning and go, man, where can I find me one of them churches? Right? I thought, and this is crazy, I know, I'm not a scholar, but I thought the gospel of Jesus was about love. It was about forgiveness. It was about reconciliation. It was about an overcoming life. I thought he came to give life, not punish from sin. I actually think Jesus once said that he didn't come to condemn. Wasn't that Jesus? Yep. So where does this come from? Where are we getting this? In Matthew 18. So I read Matthew 18. Figure it's a good place to start, right? And so as I start to read Matthew 18, his disciples, Jesus' disciples are coming to him and they're talking about who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. You know, but they're teenagers. So this is their concern, like, because Peter's like, I got to be better than John. And everybody's like, we're definitely better than Peter. So they're having this conversation. So Jesus starts sitting down, he starts talking to his disciples. And he says, bring a child to me. Let a child come to me. And he starts talking about how the kingdom of heaven belongs to the children. Then he goes in and he starts talking about woe to the world that causes one of these to sin, to go against God's will, because God's will is life. And he's like, woe to the world that causes one of these kids to stumble, to sin, to fall. And then he goes on and he starts talking about the parable of the lost sheep, how if a shepherd, how every single one is so precious to God that if he had 100 sheep and one of them wandered off, that he would leave the 99 grazing and eating, and he would go out and he would find the one. This is his message, like, I love you so much, I'm going to come after you individually. I love you so much, I want to know you individually. And then the verse where the church should start dealing severely and openly with sin. But let's read where the text, where this comes from, right? Okay, let me read the text to you. It says in Matthew chapter 18 and verse 15. Now I'm reading from a English Standard Bible. Always got to check. If your brother sins against you, just make a mental note there, bookmark it. Go and tell him his fault, between you and him alone. And if he listens to you, you have gained your brother. If he doesn't listen, take one or two along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. That comes from the Old Testament law. That's a very Jewish thing to do because all testimony has to be backed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses them, tell it to the church. Now, this is kind of a funky translation of these verses. Actually, the King James is a lot better, but it's got a lot of those, thous, and thuses in it, and y'all will be like, what's he talking about? It says, and if he refuses to listen to even the church, let him be to you as a Gentile or a tax collector. Okay, that's where those verses come from. Now, first of all, I understand the surface view of the way this sounds. Let me just say it the way that we would think it sounds, or the way maybe you read it on the surface, okay? All right, if someone sins, then we go to them and we tell them they sinned, right? And then if they don't confess that they've sinned or that they've done anything wrong, then we go back and get 2 or 3 people and we go to them in love and we tell them what a sinner they are, right? And then if they still don't repent and turn, then we bring them before the church. And if we stand them up in front of the church and say they're a sinner, and we've got witnesses, and then, because that makes everybody repent and turn. And then if they don't turn, then we kick them out of the church. Right? Let the eyes have it. That kind of thing, man. It's like, but that's the way the verse reads, right? The way we interpret it that the verse reads. And that's the way, evidently, that David Platt implies that the verse reads, that we should deal with sin openly and severely. Okay, but first of all, let's grab hold of some things here. If your brother sins against you, wait, we're not talking about sin. If your brother wrongs you, okay, your brother or your very close friend, okay? On Facebook you got close friends and acquaintances. If your close friend does something wrong to you, Jesus says we should go talk to him about it. He's not sinning against God. He's not going to burn in hell. This isn't a sin against God, okay? As David Platt implies that we should. This is a sin. This is somebody who's close to me, hurts me, or offends me, okay? And Jesus said if someone close to you hurts you or offends you, then you should go to him alone. Jesus is teaching, man, that there's a way to keep and maintain relationships. And instead of being hurt and letting it build and thinking and getting angry and bitter, just go to them and say, hey, you've hurt me, you've offended me, you did this to me. And if they don't make amends, and if they are that close and that significant and mean that much to you, then Jesus says, go and take other people with you. And the assumption here is that these are people who would know both of you. This is a close community he's talking. He's talking to the disciples. Okay, he's literally talking to the disciples who are willing to lay down their lives for each other, right? And so instead of just, I'm done with you, he says, grab a couple of your other friends and go and have a talk. You never know what's going to happen when you have that talk. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe you didn't understand right. Maybe they were wrong. But what the whole point here is to bring us to repentance, to a place of restoration where we can reconcile the relationship, right? It's not very condemning. Then he says, then if he refuses, tell it to the church. Okay, now we got to break it down, right? What is the church? Jesus is a Jew. He's a Jewish rabbi. Jesus didn't know about FBC. He didn't know about steeples. He had no clue of the way we do church now, and it's completely foreign to him. You know what Jesus did? He stood on the side of a hill and people came and he told them how to have life. He told them how to have life. He met with people in the temple, and people would sit at the rabbi's feet and he would teach and share with them. But it's foreign to what we call church. He wasn't talking about bringing them before the church. The word church, the literal word church, means the gathering. The gathering. Jesus simply said, if you go to him with a couple of friends, then bring him before the group of friends. The people that you're journeying with. Your group. Your gathering. People you gather with. All of the people that are in your friends. Not we're going to bring them before some organization and take a vote about them. But he's saying gather the assembly because this person is so important to us that we want to restore this relationship so badly that we don't want to lose him out of our group. It has nothing to do with harshly confronting evils and wickedness and kicking people out, which we get excited about because that always makes me feel better, that I'm better than they are. But it's about a love and a passion for restoring what was once broken. It's the same story of the 99 sheep right before it. It's all about taking the time to mend and repair and restore in such a way that doesn't drive a person away from God. It's about restoring and repairing a relationship. Bring them into the group. That's what he's saying. The word church would actually be a group in this case. It's the ecclesia. It's the gathering. The gathering. Gather the group of friends together and discuss this. And if he refuses to listen to the group, the gathering, it says, let him be as you would a Gentile. Well, what would it be like? What would a Jewish group have to do with the Gentiles? It says, they always include the tax collectors with the Gentiles because they were the same. Well, we didn't really hang out anymore. See, the Gentiles were unclean and they did unclean things. They lived an unclean life. And so Jews wouldn't generally associate with Gentiles because the things that were going on were unclean. It would make them unclean and unable to go into the temple and worship. So they would say, well, just let them be. Let them be. If they choose to leave the group, let them be. He doesn't say hate them. Jesus never says that. He doesn't say forcefully evict them. He doesn't say kick them out, come up with some stiff punishment. No. He says if you try everything and they still are pushing back and pushing away, let them be. Just let them go. Now this is heart-wrenching because this is a brother, a close friend. Acquaintances don't really apply. But in the church, we're like, I don't even know that person, but if they're a sinner, let's get them up front and kick them out. This is all about somebody in the group, somebody who you're part of and you share life with. See, Jesus' teaching is not about expelling, but bringing in. It's not about breaking relationship, but about restoring and repairing relationship. It's not about dealing harshly with your faults. It's about addressing your faults so you can be lifted up and encouraged and brought back in and repaired. This is the message of Jesus. This is the gospel. The real gospel of Jesus is a gospel of love and of acceptance and of repentance and of restoration. It's not a gospel of let's see who the worst sinner is and get them up here so we can kick somebody out so then nobody will be looking at me. How far off do we get? How far does it go? How much condemnation is being heaped out there, grabbing a verse here or a verse there out of context? Look, David Platt is a Bible scholar. He knows what the word church means. He knows. But he's cheering on a mob, an angry mob of a choir, so they can get all inside it. I don't know if that's a word. Is that a word? Excited? I don't know. So they can get fired up, so they can get on fire and get ready to become holy and big and bad, and just nobody can live up to their level. He's calling for a move of the church, but I have to believe it's the wrong move. It's not a move of let's see how awesome we can be and get everybody who sins and messes up out of our midst. But of like, hey, you've hurt me. We're not even talking about sin against God. That's what really bothers me about the whole thing. He's addressing sins against God. I believe God deals with that. He's addressing sins that we do to each other. Lies I told about you and false stories you've told about me and rumors you've made up about me and how you said I was fat. And that hurts. That hurts. Those are the sins we make against each other. The things that hurt us, that we go to our brother and say, look, you hurt me. You hurt me. And I'm caring enough to come to you because it bothers me. I love you. I want to continue this relationship we have. That's what Jesus was talking about. Look, you won't find in the gospel according to Jesus a gospel of condemnation. You won't find it, but you find it in the gospel according to Facebook. You find it among the Christian church today. You have to come to a conclusion sooner or later that we're a very jacked up people. We are all flawed, majorly. Nobody has it together. Nobody. I don't. You don't. But we come and we act as if we do, and then we try to expel people who don't from among our midst because of a verse taken out of context. That's not the gospel of Jesus. The gospel of Jesus is, hey, you're all equally fried. You've all messed up. But I love you anyway. I love you anyway. And what I really want for you is life, not death. What I want for you is life that you can't hope for, dream, or imagine, not the hell that your life has turned into. I'm not here to save you from something after you die, but very much to save your life here and today. I get sick of watching my friends choose to live their lives in hell over entering into the peace that Jesus came to offer simply because the church has adopted things that are so against the teachings of Jesus. I don't have time, but I can show you verses in the Bible that would back what David Platt says. I don't agree with them either. Jesus didn't say it. Some other guy said it in some other context, talking to somebody else about some other situation. This is the gospel of Jesus. I love you. I came to give you life and life to the abundant, life to the full. I came to look for you as an individual because I love you on your own merit. Not because of who you know or where you live or what you think you are, but who you really are deep down in the dark, deep places of your pits of your soul. I love you for that person. And I want to give you freedom. I want to give you life. I want to give you healing. I want to make you whole and complete. That incompleteness, that insignificance, that feeling as if you're almost there but can never reach it. I want to bridge that gap. I want to complete that. The word eternity is a word that means whole or complete or overflowing. Kind of an idea of outside of space and time, but in the context of a completeness. The word salvation means to make whole or complete, full. Jesus came to save us to eternity. He came to take what was incomplete and make it whole and complete. He's the missing piece that's standing between us and a life beyond limits. That's the gospel of Jesus. Not a gospel of condemnation. He said our condemnation is automatic for not living complete. It's automatic. We're condemned for not entrusting Him with our completeness. It's not anything anybody has to do to us. But why do we feel the need to do that to each other? It's not the gospel of Jesus. The gospel of Jesus is simply, I love you and I want to give you life. That's the gospel of Jesus. So when you're posting, when you're reading Facebook, when you're responding to posts, don't get all fired up, because not everything that sounds right is right. Not everything that sounds good is good. Not everything that sounds holy is of God. Don't believe everything you read, and definitely don't throw fuel on the fire. You're lost, your unchurched friends, people who are living an incomplete and insignificant life, they're reading that going, well, I know this person. See, they know you already. And if you post something condemning, they're going to go, well, if that's what that is, I don't need any of that. We've got to change. We've got to change from every way that we're portrayed in the gospel and the message and what it's become. We've got to change that. What's got to get out is that Jesus is a God of love. You know what? Jesus does want your comfort. He wants your peace. He is the Prince of Peace. Shouldn't His church be a place of peace and comfort? Look, if you're uncomfortable here, well, that's because the presence of God makes you very uncomfortable. When you're radically transformed, delivered, and set free, you'll get very comfortable in the presence of God, and you'll go, wow, this is pretty cool. I like it here. I feel peace here, comfort here. But it's not our job to make you uncomfortable. God will do that. Just because He loves you. He loves you. He don't want you to live like in this incomplete, trapped life. Do you understand? The gospel according to Facebook is a lie. Don't believe it. Don't buy into that. And don't add to it. The gospel of Jesus is radically different, and it is good. Let me pray over you guys.
She said, don't